Welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. The episode today is for you if you're struggling with keeping calm with your kids, when you're overwhelmed, and especially when there's too much of sensory overwhelm. Most often there's too much noise, too much drama, and those are the situations when it's the most difficult for you to stay calm, not yell or not shut down emotionally and feel like I just want to get out of here, I want to run away. How do you stay calm so that you can be there to emotionally support your children and help them tone it down without having to punish them, bribe them, or make a mommy tantrum yourself and make it even worse? How the heck do we do that? Want to find out? Let's go. Hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom system. And me and my team have helped hundreds of moms and dads start setting healthy boundaries with calm. And this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids, that shows you why none of the parenting techniques helped you stop yelling at your kids, and how to control your emotions from jumping out so that you can be the safe, loving parent you wish you had growing up. This is the Zen Supermom podcast. Hi, my name is Alena and I'm the mommy tantrum specialist and a founder of the Zen Supermom system, where we help busy moms and dads stay calm and set healthy boundaries without yelling. And if you're listening to this podcast episode, that's what you want, but it's so difficult to do it practically. If your kids are being too noisy, like too much, maybe especially at the end of the day when they've been the whole day at school or at nursery, then they come home and the hell breaks loose. And you want to be present, you want to be there for them because you understand they had a full day, but also you had a full day. You might need to do the cooking, cleaning, taking care of everybody, shower, homework, and like everybody go to bed. There are so many things you need to be doing. You are exhausted at the end of the day by then. So how the heck do you do that? Because I'm not here, and if you heard any previous podcast episode, then you know that I'm not here to let you feel that anger, frustration, and exhaustion and just swallow it up and don't do anything about it and let your kids be noisy, let the neighbors call the cops at you, or just let them kill each other and break down the house from all the noise and mess they are doing. No, kids do need boundaries, kids do need rules. But also, from all the smart parenting techniques, you already know that we cannot just let them do whatever they want, whenever they want it, just because they are tired or because they want it now, which would be like all the time. They would ideally request that, right? So, how? That's the question. And because this is the first parenting podcast that is not about the kids, I want to start by turning the mirror into you so that you can watch what is it that you can still do that would then help your kids not just calm down in the moment and maybe tone down the noise a little bit, because I can only imagine how that feels to them and how much either pain or overwhelmed they must be feeling from screaming on top of their voice and having so much drama. But also we want you to become the role model of how to manage big emotions, right? Because there's one thing if they are yelling because they're just like happy and excited, you can usually deal with that better, right? The problem is when they are screaming because they are whining, they get hurt, they're trying to grab your attention because they understand you're so busy and running around, not present. So they start escalating usually their noise when they do not feel heard and seen by you. The more that need is unmet, the higher the volume of their expression will be. So usually there's a direct proportion. And so this is why we need to start with you, Because once you understand why it's so difficult for you to stay calm and what it's going to take for you to be able to get better at it, perfectly imperfect, then this is what's going to help your kids as a result, right? That's why I don't like parenting techniques, because they just jump all of these steps and they focus on the kids. But if you don't clean up your contribution to the situation, it's not going to work. Okay? Yes, we are on the same page. We are going to own it, okay? Not pointing fingers, not judging. I used to be the same. Whenever my daughter was whining and clingy, and then she was increasing the pitch of her voice and the loudness of her shouting, screaming, crying, for her, it was most of all, it was crying. It was triggering me so much. I usually felt super annoyed by it, kind of resentful. How dare you? I'm doing everything and it's still not enough. Like, what do you want from me? I have nothing else to give you, kind of. And then when I just continued, I felt I had a shutdown, emotional shutdown. I was just like, I don't care anymore. I could see her face red from screaming and crying, and as if I cut myself, I could see it as a camera on the wall, but there was nobody inside me. There was nobody who would register that pain. I was just like, nope, too much, shut down. So I could just see her. I was not even yelling. I was just sitting there, probably like a stone cold face, which made her even more scared, of course, because it's like, mommy is gone. So I could see it on her. She was escalating even more, but I just couldn't take it. Yeah, that's why I'm never going to judge you. That's why I have nothing but compassion for you, because I know exactly how that feels and my heart goes to you. I know that if you're here in this podcast listening, trying to get the help, I know that it's because you care so much and you do not want your kids to experience that. And you do want to take care of yourself as well. You want to protect your mental sanity. You don't want to end up in some mental hospital with a total exhaustion breakdown and going crazy because your kids are crazy, right? So let's do it together. Yes? Let's go. First thing. And I say that in every mommy tantrum training. If you haven't seen it yet, by the way, go and register for it, because I take 1 hour there, sometimes even longer, to explain what's happening, okay? So just a shortcut here. Why? Why are you overwhelmed? And then eventually, why do you shut down? Do you already know? If not, then listen up. Why you cannot control your emotions in that moment when the noise is triggering you. Just think back about the last time when that happened as a movie in front of you on a screen. See the situation, how it was evolving, and pause as if you were pausing a Netflix movie. Pause in the moment when you felt you were either you would start to yell in the next moment, or you had that emotional shutdown. Pause it right there. How did you feel? What were the voices telling you in your head in that moment? Even pause this podcast episode if you need time to think about it, because usually it happens so fast. So what we need to do is to slow it down so that you become present before the cutoff and the hijack happens, okay? So even pause this right now and focus on what was the story in your head in that moment just before you lost it, in whatever way, explosion or shut down. What was the story in your head, and what did you make it mean about yourself? So usually for me, what was, I already described what was going on with my daughter when she was and like so much. So I felt, resentful. This is not fair. I'm doing so much. Why is it happening? It's never enough. I felt overwhelmed, and out of control, powerless. I wanted her to stop, but no matter what I said or did, it didn't work. So I felt out of control and totally powerless. And it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. So then the consequence, if I would really start digging, I was not feeling good enough as a mom. What's wrong with me? How come I'm the one who's supposed to know my daughter the best? I'm the one who's supposed to have all the answers and helping her with all the emotions. How come I cannot do that? What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. Okay, that's what was triggering me. And the fact that there was so much noise, it even prevented me from being able to think straight, like to do all of this digging that I just did because I'm calm, there's no trigger. That's why I want you to slow it down now, because hopefully there is nothing going on in your environment, in your surroundings. you do not have the space to do this discernment usually in the moment, in the middle of it, because of the noise, right? The noise prevents you from thinking straight. So do it now that you're calm, okay? And figure out what are these stories and how does that make you feel? Because then the next step is to think back into your life, into your past. When is the first time you felt this way ever? And it's not about being with abusive, yelling ex. It's not about any teenage bullying. This goes all the way back into your childhood and your parents, your siblings. What was the situation in your home growing up? Was there also some drama? Was there also noise, chaos? Did it feel unsafe? Were there people yelling at you, making you scared, so that you learned how to shut down, so that you wouldn't have a mental breakdown or some like split personality disorder out of all of these threats coming your way? Yeah. Take a deep breath, sending you a big hug. I know, this is not an easy quest. But this is where your overwhelm and shutdown is coming from. Okay. And the good news is, no matter how painful that realization is, at least now you know, because when you know where it's coming from, so now you know what it's going to take for you to heal it. The answer is childhood trauma healing. Yeah, because there's a part of you who got emotionally stuck, frozen back then. When you felt like there was too much drama, I had no control. Again, you see the link with the trauma button that your kids are pushing now by yelling, by being too noisy. There's a direct link with the time in the past when you felt that there was too much noise, too much drama, you were out of control, powerless, disrespected, not good enough. And most often even not safe, because when all of this is happening and you're too small, you're not feeling, because you have no control, it's not safe. This is why it cuts so deep, because it's related to your fear for your own survival, right? Maybe it was so bad at home when you were growing up that you saw your parents fighting physically, emotionally, verbally abusing each other. Or there were your siblings that were bullying you. Yeah. Or there was too much shouting and yelling in general. All of these are some level of trauma, and I also explain it on the training, because trauma is a spectrum. It's not just like this one thing that you were severely beaten up, maybe that was even the case as well, or raped or abused, but there might have been something lighter, less violent going on. But if it was happening every day, several times a day, all the time, drip, 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 it's like the death by 1,000 paper cuts. If you have just one, nothing happens. But if there's something that keeps cutting you, even slightly, but every day, several times a day, on exactly the same spot, all you will end up, and sorry for the graphical metaphor, but just to get the point across, you understand how dangerous this was? So that's why it makes perfect sense why you would react the way you do today. You see? It's an unhealed reaction that you have been carrying with you since years, decades ago. Yes. And those are the things you cannot sweep up under the carpet. And this is unfortunately so often the case with men, because their generational childhood trauma is even heavier with the fact that they're told to toughen it up and be the man, and emotions, who cares, be the rational guy, just be a man strong enough and you can get over anything, and you need to figure it out because you need to be there to protect the family. So they're taught to sweep it under the carpet, that's the past, you cannot change the past, so let's focus on the future and let's march in. Right, how is that working for you? You see how that keeps jumping up, especially in the situation when you want it the least? Okay, generational trauma healing. Okay, the next step, the next thing you need after you stop making that jumping up and either doing the yelling or the emotional shutdown. Either way, both are damaging for you and for your children to witness that. The second step that we do actually in parallel in the Zen Supermom, Zen Super Dad program is mental fitness. What mental fitness is doing is it's giving you the ability to prepare for the triggers in advance and to kind of clear out the space in your head. Because, and that's why I love therapy, and I have a lot of respect for all the mental health care professionals, but classic counseling, classic therapy is not going to help you clean up fully the childhood trauma. It's not going to stop it from jumping up because you're missing the second piece, the follow-up, installing the healthy patterns, if you want, like the healthy software, like the coping mechanisms, the way how to react. Right now, there is trauma reaction engraved all over your system. By default, you go there without even thinking. It's a trauma reaction. What we need to do is then not only heal the past, but rewrite this mechanism on how you deal with stress, how you deal with situations that are high stress, high pressure, no time, no space in your head to think straight. This is something that needs to be trained because unfortunately, well, we are not here to blame your parents, our parents. They did the best they could, right? I know mine did. They did already better than my grandparents. I know that for sure. So I'm nothing but grateful to my mom. She did better. But let's be honest, they didn't teach us how to react in stressful situations, how to react in a healthy way. They were not there to set healthy boundaries. They didn't teach us how we could have big emotions in a safe way. Because they couldn't deal with it. My mom couldn't deal with my emotions. So that's why I couldn't deal with my daughter's emotions. You see, that's why it's generational stuff. That's why there needs to be this healing happening. And that's why we need to learn, relearn, rewrite those reactions we learned from our parents. And no, it's not your fault why you haven't been able to do it, even though you might have been doing so much like meditation, mindfulness practices, and breathing techniques, and count till 10, and parenting techniques on how to deal with noisy kids, and I don't know what, and even anger therapy, classic talk therapy, you name it. This is why it doesn't work, because it's so deeply engraved in your system. Okay, so there needs to be consistent practice, just like going to the gym day by day, strengthening those neural pathways, those automated reactions in your brain so that it stops going into the trauma reaction and the shutdown or the aggression, the yelling, and it starts developing, like start walking on it. First of all, it will be like little path through jungle. You will have to walk it the first time and it will be like feeling weird. And is that how I should react when I'm feeling triggered? Like, this feels weird, this is different. The more often you walk that path and you start connecting those parts of the brain, even though it gets triggered, you start learning how to connect with the with the part of your brain that is still calm and focused and connected, present. First, it will be a little jungle path that will not be easy to walk. But the more often you walk it, the more often you do it, the more you practice when you are calm, the easier it will be to choose that path even when you're triggered. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But this is the only way, the best way, the fastest way, how I know it works, because it works for me and it works for the hundreds of other women and now even men inside the program, okay? So that's why I want to share it with you, to save your freaking time and money on doing things that do not work and then blaming yourself for being so broken and hopeless. And yeah, those are all the things that I'm hearing from people who finally find me. They watch that mommy tantrum training and then they want to book the assessment call with me to find out, like, really, please, I know it sounds too good to be true, everything you said about the other moms. Like, could it work for me too? So then they book the assessment call and they tell me just like, when I confirm to them, yes, we could help you too. And what you have actually, what you just described is classic. That's what we are doing for every mom. They're like, there's such a visible change in their face, in their energy. They start crying. They're like, I felt I was hopeless. I felt I was so broken that nobody, and all these therapists, they told me like they cannot help me. And I felt after 20 years of doing therapy, I thought I could never be there. And you're telling me it can work just in a few weeks? And so there's like a shift already in their energy back already then, even before they start doing any work, right? That's why I'm doing this podcast episode for you. Because I want you to know as well, it is perfectly doable. It is feasible. You're not broken beyond the point of repair. This is doable. Yeah? And for me to be able to tell you 100% and exactly how long it could take and what it would take for you specifically, because we don't do any cookie cutters. It's very personalized because your story is unique. If you would want that, then you should book that assessment call with me as well, one-on-one. Yeah. And you have email addresses everywhere and you can check it. Yeah. Because once you do that, once you heal the part of you that got stuck in not feeling heard, not feeling safe, because there was so much drama, so much noise when you were growing up that you learned how to shut down and either fight, aggressive, or flight, run away from it emotionally or even physically. Once you clean that up, then once you do the mental fitness piece, learning how to rewrite and find a new path, a new way, healthy way, calm, focused, even when there's so much noise, you learn how to stay present. Then, my dear mom or dad, you can start putting in practice all of those smart parenting techniques that I know you've already done, right? And even without that, another part that usually sounds too good to be true when moms meet me the first time. I tell them you are the best parenting expert on your kids. Because no matter how smart these psychologists and parenting experts are, and they give you some scenarios and scripts to talk through, it doesn't work always, right? You know that, and maybe it worked with one of your kids, but the second one is different, or the situation is different. And maybe like yesterday they didn't sleep well because the teeth are growing, or because they had a fight with their best friend, or because they had a long night because you were traveling. It's holidays coming now. Because they are sleeping in a new place and they didn't have a good night, because they didn't eat well, there's belly ache, because they're dehydrated, their head is aching. Like there's so many things, right, that keep changing. That's why I don't like any cookie cutter scripts. You know your kids the best. You know what happened in the last 24 hours, in the last month or year. You know their nature as well. Maybe one kid is super hyper and will be always screaming just because they're happy. And the other one is more calm and quiet and screams and yells only when they are not happy. Those are totally different situations. So why would I be here and tell you, when your kids scream, say this or set this boundary? That's nonsense, right? Only when you are calm and not triggered and you can keep focus, you will be able to realize, why is there so much noise? Why? And that is going to inform your next decision on what is the best action forward. Is it about setting the boundaries and telling them stop right now, otherwise like mommy is going to go crazy and there will be no bedtime story because I will have to take time for myself to calm down? Or is it about putting on the music and saying like, hey, I see you have so much energy, let's have a dance party? And maybe you leave the kitchen for just 3 minutes, you dance like a crazy with them and have a dance party, and they will be like, they will be so happy. And then they keep dancing and you can go back to the kitchen, finish the dinner, right? It depends. Is it that they are screaming because they need a hug? Yeah, because they feel it was a long day, they had to behave at school, and everybody tells you they're so nice at school, they're so well behaved. Everybody who meets them, they think they're angels, but then they come home and you feel they turn into a monster. Well, congratulations. That's great sign. It's because they feel safe with you. They know they had to fulfill all these expectations to be the good kid at school, otherwise they would be punished and judged and criticized. With you, they feel safe to be who they are, and they feel safe to decompress just like you want to decompress at the end of the day, right? So then it's about finding a healthy way and teaching them, and recognizing, I bet you're exhausted. It was a long day, wasn't it? So what do you want to do? Do you want to hug? Do you want to play? Like, this is what I will have to do. I will have to cook because otherwise we're going to be hungry. It's going to be even worse. Do you want to cook with me? Or do you want to hug and then you will play here? Yeah, it depends. What is the reason for the noise? Which of their needs are not being met? Or is it just because they're super excited? Maybe there's nothing wrong happening with them. They're just super excited and joyful, and you don't want to break that joy. But of course, there need to be some boundaries. There cannot be also constant noise, because that would turn into a disaster as well, right? But that's why I don't like any parenting cookie cutters. Like, when there's noise, say this. No, you are the best parenting expert. If only you could not get triggered by the noise, then I'm sure you will be able to find a way how to deal with it in an effective way. Yes? Great. Send me your insights from this podcast episode. Send me any yes, but. Like, okay, sounds great in theory, but how do I do it then? Like, you've never heard my story that's even worse than all the others you've heard. Bring it on. Send it to me. You have my contact details everywhere, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Send me your feedback. Send me your questions. I'll be happy to get back in touch. Yeah, because I appreciate you. I know that the fact you're here, even at the end of this podcast episode, that tells me you really care. You want to figure this out. And you're not one of these parents who think that I'm the parent, so I need to be the authority. That gives me the right to yell or do anything, because otherwise there will be snowflakes and narcissistic, spoiled, yelling, intolerant human beings, and I cannot let that happen, so I need to yell because there cannot be any noise, right? So they are yelling, now you start yelling, and like, good luck with that. That's not you, I know that. So that's why I honor you and I applaud you for your courage to go to the places that are sometimes scary, like digging out your own childhood. I know that it's not a journey for the faint of heart. And so I see you, courageous generational trauma breaker. Well done. Well done. I see you. Maybe not other people. Maybe they don't understand like what's going on with you, and why don't you just like, why are you not strict with your kids? Why don't you punish them just like we all do? That's not you. And I thank you for being on this mission. I know that you're here because you want better childhood for your kids than you had. Without complaining about parents, it was great. Thank you. Thank you. We just want, there's some more stuff to clean up. And you want that for your kids. You want them to grow up having the best memories ever while respecting the boundaries, while being respectful, kind, considerate human beings. So thank you for contributing to making this world a better place by raising your children this way without traumatizing them, on the other hand. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. Keep me posted, and I will see you the next time. Bye. Why can't you stop yelling at your kids? And no, it's not the stress, lack of sleep, kids not listening, fighting, hitting, no support, time pressure, ADHD, hormones. No, moms around the world are doing it regardless. How? Join us for the upcoming Mommy Tantrum training and find out too.